Have you heard of task paralysis and productive procrastination? It is cram week for finals, so it's the perfect time for me to spend an embarrassing amount of hours on a YouTube video that 7 people will see. You likely have many important end-of-the-year wrap-up tasks to tear into, meaning it's the perfect time for you to grab a shovel and dig up your entire backyard in pursuit of fossilized remains of some really amazing animals which inhabited the very state you live in. To assist you in this endeavor, I have compiled every state's state fossil so you know what to look for. One consequential note before we begin, we have to remember that during the Mesozoic, the era of dinosaurs encompassing the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods, the North American continent was vastly different than we know it today. In the early Mesozoic, we were all hanging out in classic old Pangaea, but as we get further down the line into the Cretaceous, rising sea levels flooded the continent and split it into 2 separate landmasses. We have Laramidia to the west, an incredibly whimsical name with fitting creatures to match, where what we know as the western half of the United States resides. That's Alaska all the way down breaching into Mexico. To the east, we have the landmass Appalachia, the same Appalachia we have today, with a different set of terrifying beings lurking in the fog. Above water, we had parts of Canada to as far south as Texas. In the middle was the Western Interior Seaway, submerging much of the Central Plains and part of the west and east underwater, connecting the Arctic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, the Gulf of Mexico. In attempts to ensure that you don't just skip to your state and then click off, I'm going to keep each state's creature info dump brief to accommodate your distinctive attention span. The Basilosaurus was a primitive genus of whale. Despite its name for some reason meaning king lizard, it was obviously a marine mammal, not a reptile. If it's an ocean dinosaur, it's not a dinosaur, it's a prehistoric marine reptile. If it's a sky dinosaur, it's not a dinosaur, it's a prehistoric avian reptile. If it lived outside the Mesozoic but it looks like a dinosaur, it's not a dinosaur, it's a whatever it is. This apex predator could reach lengths up to 66 feet, with a serpentine look, and interestingly possessed 4 limbs, with the front ones modified into flippers and the rear ones reduced to small, non-functional appendages. It likely fed on sharks, smaller whales, and marine reptiles. The woolly mammoth was an elephant-like creature with thick fur which could be up to 20 inches long, small ears, and incredible tusks. These animals were acutely adapted to survive in cold climates, at times bearing temperatures as low as -58 degrees Fahrenheit. Woolly mammoths were abundant creatures with a wide range of habitat 20,000 years ago, but were reduced to isolated populations by 10,000 years ago, with official extinction around 4,000 years ago. Meaning your great times 150 grandma probably knew one, or ate one. I don't know. The Sonorosaurus was a brachiosaurid sauropod, whose name means Sonora lizard, as it was found in the Sonora Desert, if you could have guessed. So far, it is the geologically youngest brachiosaurid discovered, meaning its discovery challenged the idea that brachiosaurs had died out much earlier. Its length is estimated to be around 50 feet long, with a height of 25 to 30 feet. Based off the name, could you have ever guessed that that was your state fossil? The Archensaurus is a type of ornithomimosaur, literally meaning bird-mimic lizard, which is especially accurate given it's pretty much an ostrich. Well, it may have gotten up to 15 feet tall, so a little bit cooler than a regular ostrich, but... You may be wondering, did ostriches evolve from these types of animals? No. This phenomenon is called convergent evolution, and I have a very sophisticated definition for you on screen. You actually have 2 state fossils, or they switched them out, I don't know, called Gavin Newsom. Is that his name? Originally, it was the Smilodon californicus, a saber-toothed tiger which lived during the Pleistocene epoch up until 10,000 years ago. It is assumed from their adaptations that they utilized an ambush hunting strategy, after which they would use their brute strength to hold down their prey, then using their 8-inch-long curved canines to slash a killing blow. Alternatively, your state fossil is the Augustinophis morrissey. This super cute Star Wars-looking creature, a 30-foot-long hadrosaur whose diet consisted of leaves, ferns, and berries. The Stegosaurus is a late Jurassic ornithischian dinosaur with those recognizable vertical plates along its back as well as a tail tipped with spikes. These tail spikes were no doubt used in defense of predators, whereas their spine plates are a bit more ambiguous. But they may have been used for things such as temperature regulation, defense, or display. There are three main types of dinosaurs: ornithischians, sauropodomorphs, and theropods. Scientifically, these classifications are formed through distinctions to do with the skeletal structure of the hip, but who has time to understand that? If they have a bunch of weird cool stuff on them, they're an ornithischian. If they have a long neck, they're a sauropodomorph. If they eat the other two, they're a theropod. They don't spit venom, they don't have an expandable neck frill, and they're actually about 23 feet long. The name Dilophosaurus means double-crested lizard, referring to their bony sets of cranial crests, which were likely used for display, whether that be for intimidating or for looking hot for the Dilophosaur ladies. Despite its size, its rear curving teeth suggest it preyed on relatively smaller prey, like fish and small reptiles. It also had strong arms with the perfect three-clawed hand to snatch up prey items. The Dryptosaurus was a large theropod which lived during the late Cretaceous period, a relative of the T-Rex notable for its long for a theropod, arms and eagle-like talons. This indicated a hunting mechanism unlike the T-Rex, a more physical attack utilizing grasping and slashing actions. Similar to many other theropods, science is moving in the favor of these creatures being covered to partially covered in protofeathers, either for thermoregulation, display and communication, camouflage, or gliding aerodynamics in the case of some much smaller theropods. Okay, don't be mad at me, don't be mad, but your fossil is agatized coral. Like, aka coral with a rock on it. What the hell? I am sorry, but you happen to be underwater during most of the epic parts of prehistory. I mean, as you will be again here soon, but I'm just gonna give you a different one so you have something to work here with, okay? The Gavialosuchus was a 30-foot-long predatory crocodilian. Oh, you guys pretty much already have that right now? Never mind. Though often depicted as a ginormous great white, the megalodon was actually much more slender and elongated than a great white, with a flatter jaw and extra-long pectoral fins. This species was reclassified into the extinct family Otodontidae, which diverged from the great white shark during the early Cretaceous. The megalodon is actually a keystone species, meaning a species which has a disproportionately large impact on its environment. Specifically, the megalodon helped regulate ocean ecosystems by keeping large marine mammal populations in check and driving their evolution towards faster swimming, deeper diving, and safer migration patterns. After its extinction, these pressures disappeared, allowing modern whales and other species to diversify and reshape the marine food web. The Oryctodromeus is a particularly fascinating Cretaceous animal, the one which gave us our first ever proof of burrowing behavior in a dinosaur. These herbivorous reptiles were about 6 feet long, but only weighed around 70 pounds, with adaptations for burrowing akin to modern rabbits or hyenas. Fossil sites also indicate family groups with a diverse range in age living together underground. The Tullymonstrum gregarian, or Tully monster, is a hilarious and peculiar soft-bodied marine organism which lived around 300 million years ago. Its classification is an ongoing debate given its unique anatomy not fitting neatly into existing categories. Its segmented body starts normal enough, kind of mollusky, kind of cuttlefishy. Then it immediately goes downhill with 2 vertical growths with tiny little eyes, and an extremely long proboscis for a snout, and a pincer-like jaw with literally 8 teeth on it at the end. A 2016 study proposed that it was a vertebrate, a primitive fish related to lampreys. This is based on the presence of a notochord, a rudimentary spinal cord, and gills, but taxonomists just like arguing, so ask again in like 10 years and it'll be a dog or, I don't know, your cousin. The mastodon may look similar to mammoths, but there are physical distinctions such as their cone-shaped molars for crushing twigs, leaves, and shrubs, unlike the flatter teeth of mammoths used for grinding grasses, as well as their shorter and stockier builds only standing 8 to 10 feet tall. Mastodon is also the name of a metal band, so I guess I'll give you some a cappella of one of their songs. Is this a dinosaur? The pteranodon, name meaning wing toothless because it had wings and it was toothless, very creative, is a genus of large pterosaurs whose wingspans can reach up to 20 feet. Its cranial crests were likely used for display and were much smaller in females, a product of sexual dimorphism. Distinct physical, behavioral, or physiological differences between males and females beyond reproductive organs. It is thought that pteranodons were piscivorous, flying over shallow seas using a hunted method akin to modern pelicans. TBH, it's a shell. Like, for real. Well, technically 2 shells. There's really not much for me to say here. They're almost entirely immobile, so they don't really do much. How do they eat, you're wondering? Well, they use a fan-like organ called a lophophore to capture food particles from the water. How do they reproduce, you're wondering more? Well, life is precious and beautiful, so of course they have a sophisticated and intimate method of creating life. That being, they just shoot into the open water. Just gametes floating around in the abyss. And then, the sperm and egg somehow find each other and boom, external fertilization. So I guess that is kind of beautiful. Well, kinda. Kentucky, at least you got an animal of sorts. Maine state fossil is a plant. It's a nice plant, a precursor to ferns. It's got like branches on it. Pertica quadrifaria, everybody. There it is. At a whopping 66 feet in length and 20 metric tons, the astrodon was a herbivorous sauropod from the early Cretaceous period. Its name translates to star tooth, after an examination of a fossilized tooth led to the discovery of a distinctive star-shaped pattern in their cross-section. The Podokesaurus, was a small but agile carnivore from the early Jurassic period. At the smaller end of its size range, it could be about the size of a dog, with some specimens growing up to 5 feet long. It was likely incredibly efficient at hunting insects and small animals. Fun fact, Mignon Talbot, who discovered the Podokesaurus, was the first woman to ever discover and scientifically name and describe a dinosaur. Thank you, Mignon, for your service. Filet mignon. Ooh, awkward. Repeats. I feel as if we should not have repeats. Talk to your representatives. Michigan, your state fossil is the mastodon. Mississippi, yours is the basilosaurus, both of which we've already gone through. Sorry, next. The Hypsipema mizorensis was a herbivorous hadrosaurid dinosaur which lived during the late Cretaceous period 75 million years ago. It's estimated to have been about 30 feet long, 10 feet tall, and weighing 3 to 4 tons. It actually had serrated teeth, an indicator of the coarseness of the vegetation in its habitat climate at the time. It was a big find for the Midwest, as fossils of true dinosaurs east of the Western Interior Seaway are hard to come by. This dinosaur has the sweetest name and indications attached to it, indications that changed the perception of dinosaurs forever. The Maiasaura fossils were found in a site filled with nests, eggs, hatchlings, and juveniles all grouped together. This remarkable nesting ground shows that Maiasaura returned to the same site year after year after year and cared for their young long after hatching. Baby dinosaurs were found to be too underdeveloped to walk, meaning parents had to bring food to the nest. This evidence challenged earlier views of dinosaurs as solitary reptiles that abandoned their eggs. Instead, Maiasaura revealed that some dinosaurs lived in structured family groups and nurtured their offspring, reshaping our understanding of dinosaur social behavior. This is why she received her adorable name, which means good mother lizard. Aww. Archidiscodon imperator, a Columbian mammoth, was a 13-foot-tall elephantine creature with massive tusks, which lived alongside early humans up until 12,500 years ago. They were very closely related to the woolly mammoth, with some evidence even suggesting they interbred. Mammoths had 6 sets of teeth, such like modern elephants, 3 sets of deciduous or baby teeth, and 3 sets of permanent teeth. So many were necessary due to the intense grinding of foliage that occurred when feeding. The final set of teeth would be the biggest yet, designed for years of heavy-duty usage until they eventually would wear down and fall out, and they would starve to death because they couldn't eat anymore. And I'm really sorry I told you that, but I just found out myself and I didn't want to suffer in the knowledge alone. The Shonisaurus was a 50-foot-long ichthyosaur, or fish lizard, which lived during the late Triassic 215 million years ago. Evidence from its strong, blade-like teeth and preserved gut contents indicates that Shonisaurus was a macrophagous raptorial predator, feeding on vertebrates and shelled mollusks like cephalopods, and potentially taking on large prey like sharks and other marine reptiles. This fossil being the first nearly complete skeleton found in North America, the Hadrosaurus was a large late Cretaceous period herbivore. This creature could grow up to 25 feet long, 10 feet tall, and weigh 8 tons. We often see hadrosaurids being called duck-billed dinosaurs, but why exactly is their beak so ducky? Scientists used to believe that they were amphibious like ducks with curved beaks, but recent fossil discoveries show that their beaks were more like strong, squared-off croppers for snipping leaves and plants. Hadrosaurs have dealt with all sorts of manners of misconception, such as the cranial crest of the Parasaurolophus being proposed to have the function of a snorkel, or more realistically, of course, being a chemical reservoir in which they were able to blow fire out of. Coelophysis was a small but incredibly quick theropod from the late Triassic period. Small in this context is 10 feet long, but you have to put into perspective that they only weighed around 40 pounds. This light build, made even more efficient by hollow bones and a long tail which acted as a counterbalance, granted them great speed when running. They utilized this advantage when hunting in packs for small reptiles and possibly even primitive mammals. The sea scorpions, scientifically known as the Eurypterus, were aquatic arthropods related to horseshoe crabs. They were predators with grasping claws and that distinctive scorpion-like tail, which did not have venom like the scorpion, but rather blade-like spikes called telsons, which could be whipped forward to stab prey. They averaged around 9 inches long from what we found, although the largest specimens discovered have been over 4 feet long. I really don't like that some states have to share state fossil species. I feel like I'm opening a blind box and getting another repeat. And while I've already talked about megalodons, they're so popular, I'm just going to try to find some more information for you. Megalodon babies were huge, around 6 feet long, and were born live. This is called viviparity.
If you're a teeny little baby megalodon swimming around in your mama's giant belly,
What should you do to make sure you get big and strong? evidence that these sweet little innocent puppy sharkies participated in oophagy, a unique survival of the fittest adaptation in which unborn megalodons would eat their siblings while still inside their mother's belly so that they are born large enough to immediately be able to hunt. So, it's wood. It's a piece of wood. But it is interesting as it gives us record of ancient marine life interacting with terrestrial plants. As parts of North Dakota were covered by a shallow sea, there are tunnels all throughout this particular fossil in which shipworms, small clam-like creatures, burrowed through it. So, yeah, wood with holes in it. The Dunkleosteus was a massive placoderm, or armored fish, that lived during the late Devonian period around 360 million years ago, one of the oldest creatures on this list. There is some debate about the size of these animals, with the largest species thought to reach 29 feet long, while recent studies propose 13 feet being the largest size to expect. Regardless, its head and mouth were huge. The Dunkleosteus has the highest bite force of any fish that has ever lived, and though it lacks true teeth, it has equally devastating razor-sharp bony blades lining its jaw which could shear through meat and crush bone easily. A true classic, it is widely considered to be the Earth's first vertebrate superpredator, marking a shift at the time from invertebrates to fish as the ocean's dominant predators. The Saurophaganax, whose name means largest lord of lizard eaters, is unfortunately no longer considered valid. Up-to-date analysis suggests that the specimen was a chimeric mix-up, fossils which were mistakenly grouped together. The theropod remains are now classified as a new species of Allosaurus, Allosaurus anax, while the remaining bones likely belong to a sauropod. Allosaurus anax, meaning different lizard king, was the biggest allosaurid theropod, growing up to 40 feet long, weighing 5 tons. This is around the same size as a T-Rex, but lighter, possibly suggesting a greater agility. I hadn't considered the niche for paleobotany, so I'm going to give the Metasequoia a dignified segment. The Metasequoia is a deciduous conifer with distinct fern-like needles. Herbivores in the same environment, like hadrosaurs and chylosaurs and ceratopsians, likely fed on Metasequoia, using their sophisticated teeth to process the tough plant material. While once thought to be extinct, this beautiful plant was rediscovered in China during the 1940s, and is now utilized as a popular landscaping tree. So, if you'd like to realize your dreams of being a longneck, you can drive to a rich neighborhood and start eating the Metasequoia in their front yard.
Bruh.
They'll love that. Do it. The Phocops rana is a species of Devonian-age trilobite, a marine species of arthropod known for its bulbous eyes, which is where it got its name, frog-eyed lens. Nowadays, you'll hear this animal being called the Eldredgeops rana due to the fact that its eye structure was the key to Niles Eldredge's theory of punctuated equilibrium, which observed rapid evolutionary changes in the number of eye lenses. Check the screen for a definition if you're lost. Your state fossil is listed as just trilobite, so there's only over 20,000 species to choose from. So I think I'm just going to give you some fun facts. Trilobites were the first animals to develop complex eye structures. This means they were the first animals to see anything. I don't even know how they pitched that at the annual evolution meeting. So what if we developed these things for which we could look around with? What is look? Although trilobites were once incredibly abundant and adaptable, none of them have living descendants today. As some of the earliest arthropods, they are instead distantly related to present-day animals like lobsters, horseshoe crabs, and spiders. They actually look exactly like woolly-polies, and woolly-polies even wool up like how they would actually wool up, so I think they're related, actually. How can certain creatures have such starkly similar physical adaptations as one another, but not be directly related? We talked about this just a couple of minutes ago, so I think you should get it right. Your state fossil is the Columbian mammoth, and we have already talked about this, so I actually recently became the president of South Carolina and changed it, and now it is the one and only Aramotherium. The Aramotherium is an extinct genus of giant ground sloth from the Pleistocene epoch, disappearing only around 11,000 years ago. This herbivorous giant was around 20 feet long and could stand up to 15 feet tall, weighing 4 or more tons. The Aramotherium was equipped with long arms and huge claws in order to pull down on branches and strip trees for food. While not exactly built for speed, these creatures weren't as sluggish like the modern sloths we know. Modern sloths have extremely low metabolisms linked to their leafy diet and camouflage. Aramotherium likely had a metabolism closer to bears, requiring more energy for its huge body, as suggested by studies on its relatives like the Megatherium. The Triceratops was a late Cretaceous herbivorous ornithischian dinosaur, actually noted as one of the last known non-avian dinosaurs to live right up till the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event 66 million years ago. Its name means three-horned face, due to the 3 horns on its face. Okay? Elect me president of genus naming, and we can take the Triceratops, 3-horned face, and turn it into the Trichosis mortis, 3 chances for death. It was one of the largest ceratopsians, measuring up to 30 feet long and weighing 6 to 10 tons. Its skull was enormous, making up 1/3 of its body, and was equipped with a large frill to protect the neck, 2 long brow horns reaching over 3 feet long, and a short nasal horn, bony structures covered in a thick keratin sheath. This made them incredibly formidable and dangerous. There's even evidence that large theropods suffered some losses by the horns of the Triceratops. As someone who really is incredibly marine biology inclined, I'm sorry, but I really have trouble finding much to say about bivalves. Comparatively speaking, I was just talking about one of the few animals that has been known to take on the T-Rex, and now I'm talking about a clam. If this was a bivalve video, I'm sure I'd be like, yo, look at the ribbing on its shell, this guy was crazy. Pleurocoelus? More like you wanna be us. Wastebasket taxon. You're actually an astrodon. The Utahraptor is one of the largest and geologically oldest dromaeosaurids from the late Cretaceous period. They stood about 5 feet tall at the hip and could reach lengths of up to 20 feet long. It had large, retractable sickle claws on its second toe, almost 10 inches long. The Utahraptor is thought to have had excellent senses, adapted to have acute hearing, especially for low-frequency sounds, binocular vision like an eagle, and a powerful sense of smell. Put all of that together and you have a terrifying and impressive hunter, made even scarier by the evidence which points to them hunting in packs, using an ambush method to track and sneak up on prey before using their sophisticated claws and deadly bite to secure their meal. Vermont, you have a unique state fossil, with yours being that of an extant or living creature, the beluga whale. This is because of the famous Charlotte whale incident. Imagine you're an early 1800s railroad worker just digging around, making room for some tracks, and all of a sudden, you're digging up whale bones in Vermont. And the earth is like a couple years old, according to the Bible. And you're trying to do the math on when there could have been time for an ocean to exist over Vermont. Oh, Noah, right, the world flooded, remember that? Finally more proof that the Bible is factual and inerrant, and definitely not proof that creationism is dead because the world is millions of years old. But seriously, the Charlotte whale was a major discovery because its finding in landlocked Vermont, hundreds of miles away from the ocean, in 1849 baffled scientists, challenging existing ideas about Earth's history and proving that large parts of New England were once covered by a vast inland sea, crucial evidence for the new theory of glaciation and ice ages. I'm not doing it. Aren't you tired of having to share your state fossil with other states? Is the repetition boring your desire to watch really low-quality paleontology videos? So, this is less a dinosaur and more one single vertebrae. All that can really be told from this one little spine bone is that it was likely a large theropod. I have several jokes for this one, hold on. This tracks for DC since they believe if you have one piece of evidence, you can build a whole narrative. Only a tiny bit of this specimen has been revealed, but in DC, that's enough to get a name and a title. It makes complete sense for the government up in DC to choose this one, as they run a lot of talk about having backbone while supplying very little evidence. I ate that one. Oh, I really did. The Megalonyx was another species of giant ground sloth that inhabited North America from the Pliocene to the late Pleistocene epoch. Commonly referred to as Jefferson's sloth, Thomas Jefferson was actually the first to describe this set of fossils, but mistook it for that of a giant lion. This was around 50 years before Charles Darwin would release On the Origin of Species, so the idea of extinctions occurring was still taboo. After this specimen was correctly identified as the Megalonyx, Jefferson just assumed they must be hanging out over there in the American West, so when Lewis and Clark went on their little adventure, he actually asked them to keep an eye out and study one for him. Alongside its fellow Ice Age megafauna, its disappearance is most likely linked to a combination of habitat erosion, resource loss, climate change, and human predation. The Calamine celebra is yet another trilobite, and I'm really running out of things to tell you about them, but I will try. To protect themselves from predators, trilobites adapted the behavior of enrollment. This protected their vulnerable legs, gills, and organs, evolving multiple times in different lineages, with some species even developing interlocking features for a tighter seal, as a key survival strategy against increasing threats like predatory fish. The Knightia was a genus of club-eyed bony fish which inhabited freshwater lakes and rivers within North America and Asia during the Eocene epoch. This is actually the most commonly excavated fossil fish in the whole world. The Knightia was a small herring-like fish, with the biggest specimens growing only about 10 inches long. They were likely schooling fish, making them an abundant food source for Eocene predators.
Emma, but what exactly do you mean when you're saying, like, Eocene and Cretaceous and stuff like that?
Whoa, existence exists. Things or something is here or something, I think, somehow. Earth is here now, hi! We've entered our very first eon, the Hadean eon. Nothing's here, why is it so hot? Moving to the Archean eon, we have some continents, oceans, and maybe even some little lives.
Things are about to get pretty awesome in here.
As we enter the Proterozoic, not only do we have bountiful oxygen buildup, but some multicellular dudes have shown up at the party. Okay, but now things are getting serious because we just entered the Phanerozoic eon, which began 541 million years ago and is still ongoing today. But within this eon, we firstly have the Paleozoic era, and within the Paleozoic era, we have the Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, and Permian periods. Okay, that's not too hard to remember. Whoa, so much happened. We had the Cambrian explosion, a diversification of life. The marine life is insane. What? There's plants and animals on land now? Pangea? We're all connected and we can hang out all the time, and now everything's dead? Huh? The Permian-Triassic extinction event occurs, the largest mass extinction ever. Next. Oh, hell yeah, we're in the Mesozoic now. This is the age of reptiles. Dinosaurs! Within the Mesozoic, we have the Triassic, hot, dry climate with vast deserts and some interesting creatures popping up. The Jurassic, Pangea is breaking up due to rising sea levels, dinosaurs and marine reptiles are on top, early birds have evolved, giant dinosaur diversity and abundance is peaking, and finally, the Cretaceous period. The continents are still drifting, whoa, crazy dinosaurs are here, oh my gosh, flowers are here, even mammals have shown up, oh my gosh, we're one big beautiful family of life, the KPG extinction event occurs and everything is dead. Okay, I will admit this is when you're going to need to pull the notepad out because now we are throwing epochs in the mix. From 66 million years ago to the present, we are in the Cenozoic era, which encompasses the Paleogene, Neogene, and Quaternary periods, which respectively encompass the Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, the Pliocene and Miocene, and the Pleistocene and Holocene. Got it? Good. The age of mammals. The continents seem happy where they are. Oh my gosh, the Himalayas and Alps showed up. An ape figured out how to make a fire. I guess that's fine. It's not like it's gonna take over the world. Whoa, it's snowing! Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Phew. Who's that? Crap, all the cool animals are going extinct. Still, the planet is so beautiful, and according to my watch, it is the end of prehistory. I am going to take a quick little 5,000-year nap. I hope nothing ever changes. Good night, beautiful nature.